Guys, we have a really special guest today, and let me just get into really quick, what Frog Radio is about. Uh-oh, is he gone already? What happened?
I'm
Uh-oh.
here.
Oh, there he is. I thought it looked like he disappeared a little bit from my screen. I was like, oh God, like
I'm
here we
seeing
go.
that too. Yeah.
Yeah, but it does appear he's back. But anyway, guys, we have Cryptofish of Trader Joe here today. Really excited about it because Trader Joe is a product that I use almost every single day. And look, I've been in DeFi for a very long time. I was there for the Uniswap airdrop, and I was there back in the day where we were trading anti-imple tard tendies on Uniswap, and we were just talking, me and RT, about a little bit about how what's going on in AVAX right now. It's kind of an echo of DeFi summer, where you do have a lot of just really interesting, cool stuff launching, but you have a lot of fun things launching as well. And a lot of those new fun projects are launching on Trader Joe now. Well, why are they launching on Trader Joe? Well, it's the biggest, most liquid exchange on Avalanche, and there are other exchanges on Avalanche, of course. But one of the things that stands out about Trader Joe is and this isn't just on Avalanche. This is any chain. Anywhere you look, because we are opportunity maximalists. We love Avalanche, but we are opportunity maximalists. They have one of the best user interfaces and user experiences of any exchange anywhere. So it is really refreshing, especially when you go from like terrible UI UX to amazing UI UX. It is really refreshing to see an exchange like really prioritize that and make an interface that's powerful for the user. So Trader Joe is they've launched this new product, Banker Joe, and it's my understanding that this has been out for a couple of weeks. Banker Joe, I think, is a compound fork. But Banker Joe is an interesting product, because it's right now it's, enables borrowing and lending, of course. But it's my understanding that in the future, and this is what kind of differentiates Joe, in my opinion, from everything else. In the future, they're going to tap into Banker Joe and, allow some leverage trading and things like that on the platform. And, the interesting thing about that is that, we're talking multiple revenue streams for the exchange, kind of all packaged in here. Cryptofish, what is going on, man? You keep going from speaker to not here to, is everything good, bro?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Maybe that's just something weird going on our end. But enough introduction about Trader Joe. Here's how this is going to go, guys. We're going to try to cap this at about 45 minutes. For about, the first 20 minutes, what we do is we're just going to give Fish a chance to talk, tell us about Joe, any upcoming products they have. This show is about the frogs, okay? So one of the things that I'd love to hear about is, different ways that people are using Trader Joe. Different things you can do on Trader Joe, because it's not just a place where you can go and trade. One of the amazing things about the AMM is that you can be a liquidity provider. There's different ways to earn Joe, which is really incredible. There's ways to put your Joe to work. And then there's ways to put the Joe that you've put to work, which is, it's kind of a Joe inception. But Cryptofish, I think the best place to start, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. After that, we do the Q&A. Just a reminder, and we are going to remind you of this again. That Q&A portion is recorded, so we'll go over the instructions for that ahead of time. But just right now, know that if you ask to speak, that you will be recorded. So you asking to speak is your consent to be recorded. We're going to post it on YouTube and stuff like that. So if you're not cool with being on YouTube and stuff, and remember, it's not like it's not a video of this space. It's just an audio recording. But if you don't want your voice online, please do not ask to be a speaker. So without further ado, we have Cryptofish here of Trader Joe. I think the best place to start here would be to ask, how did this all begin? What is your origin story? Why did you choose Avalanche over other chains when you guys were deciding to get started up? And also, everybody has seen Farmer Joe. He is one of the most lovable, memeable mascots of any DeFi product anywhere. So, Fish, if you could get into a little bit about, where did you guys start? Where did this idea come from? Why Avalanche? And also, who came up with the iconic mascot?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, first of all, huge hello to Frog Nation. Really honored to be here. So my origin story goes back to 2017. Back then, I wasn't even a developer at the time. I was actually a doctor, and I learned about blockchain stuff like at a good time. Actually, I learned about it 6 months before the whole ICO boom happened. I bought my first Bitcoin, and then the ICO boom happened, and I thought, oh, this is easy. Like you can just do anything and make money and whatever. But at the time, I was also like interested in programming and leaving medicine, so I decided to just kind of learn on my own. And obviously, 2018 bear market happened, and all kinds of hubris that I developed before that was just gone, as well as my earnings. So I didn't really think much about crypto for the next few years. I was just focusing on learning programming and switching careers. And then basically one of my Link Marine friends, Grandma, shout out to him, he started shilling this like whole Avalanche thing to me last year. And I was like, well, what's this Avalanche thing? But at the time I was like, okay, whatever, I have nothing to lose anyways. Like I just liquidated all the random dust I had in my various wallets and just went into the ICO. And I was really lucky to get in, so I got in. And obviously it did well after launch. But then also at that time, I was like, I was already a pretty competent developer already, and always felt like I wanted to, work in the space as a crypto developer. So when the first dApp started sprouting up in February, I just started to get myself involved. So there was like Zero Exchange, obviously Pangolin, and then there was Snowball, shout out to them. So I actually started working for Snowball. I wasn't like getting paid or anything. I was just a contributor, so I was just doing small bug fixes and stuff. And then PandaSwap happened. Avalanche OGs will know about that. They're very traumatized by it. But basically, everyone was very excited about this new DEX coming onto the horizon called PandaSwap. And I aped pretty hard into it. And on the first day, they had a bug. And I was like, shit, like, my money's at stake here. So I was like in Discord just saying, hey, look, let me help you fix this bug. So they invited me to the private channels and stuff. And off to work I went, just debugging this bug. And it took me like a couple of days to realize that, like this whole myth of being a crypto dev wasn't as, I don't know. I always thought it like being a crypto dev, like all of them were godlike, So it took me a couple of days to realize actually I can do this as well. And then, obviously PandaSwap didn't work out. And after a week I left. I just, cut my losses and left. But then I just came back and I knew Murloc from way back. And he was also interested in getting into crypto. So I just told him like, hey, we can start a project. And, this ecosystem is still very young. And we can just, let's just fork a DEX and see what happens and take it from there, really.
And which DEX did you fork for the listeners here?
So we forked Uniswap V2 for the DEX, and then for the yield farms we forked Sushi.
Okay, excellent.
So for those of you that that aren't aware, Joe works very similarly to Sushi, to where the platform of course generates revenue, right? And a portion of this revenue, there's something they have called X Joe. Now X Joe is just staked Joe, okay? And when you stake your Joe, you don't have Joe anymore. You're going to send your Joe to a contract, and in return for that, as a receipt for that, you get X Joe. So what the platform actually does, and I believe it's every 24 hours now, is they're going to take this platform revenue and they mark it by Joe, and then they distribute that Joe to people that are staking X Joe. So the interesting thing about X Joe is you don't get more X Joe. X Joe is a static container that contains Joe. and X Joe is worth a certain amount of Joe. So by having X Joe, you're constantly accumulating more Joe. And that's not, via inflation, right? That's actually platform revenue that's used to buy Joe and distribute it to the people that are actually staking the token, which is super interesting. Now, right now, Joe has their AMM product, which, I'm sure a lot of you have used. It's where you go to trade your coins for the most part in the Avalanche ecosystem. But they also have a product called Banker Joe. And I think, there's not much to discuss about, just the exchange aspect because, people have seen AMMs for a long time. As Fish said, it's a fork. I think most of the innovation on the AMM side from the Joe team mainly comes in the form of the user interface, and the user experience. I'd love to hear more about, Banker Joe and your plans for that. And it's my understanding right now that Banker Joe is still very young, and that you guys are kind of, battle testing it a bit before you take it further. What are you guys planning on doing with that?
Yeah, so let me just talk about our origin story a little bit more because I remember you asked about how we came about the name Trader Joe. So basically, I mean, me and Murloc, we started this project. We didn't know what to call it. And he just codenamed it Trader Joe because, it's the supermarket. So then we just started crafting a story like we should have a storyline for Joe. And the storyline was like, okay, Joe is like your average Joe. He wants to generate wealth basically. So we kind of figured, okay, you know what, like let's look at the kind of development of economic civilizations. And usually a civilization, it starts off, they start off farming, then they do like some bartering and trading and all that kind of stuff. So that's like the yield farming and then the trading aspect. And then once they accumulate some wealth, what do they do with that next? And usually the next step is to lend it out to earn interest. So that was the motivation for Banker Joe. And after that, we're like, okay, well, what can you do after that? Like, once you have the Banker Joe and the Trader Joe, then we thought, okay, it makes sense now to be able to offer leverage trading because then you can lever up and maximize your profits or losses. But that was the idea behind Banker Joe. So right now we're not yet there yet. So we've created Banker Joe. And it is a compound / cream fork. But right now it works very separate to the main DEX. But the goal is within the next few months to, the next product that we roll out will be synergizing both of these products.
Okay. Yeah, that's super interesting. Now, where did this actual farmer Joe come from? Because the meme has actually become pretty famous in the Avalanche ecosystem and, outside the Avalanche ecosystem. Of course, Joe is pretty iconic, and there's kind of memes of him doing all sorts of goofy things and honest things, like farming and this and that. Where did the actual mascot come from? And is what we're seeing right now, like the current form of Joe, was that the original kind of idea, or did you guys just have a designer and see that one day and you were like, oh my God, this is hilarious? Like, what's the story behind, Joe himself?
Yeah. So, like I'm very particular about, graphics and design and stuff. You can probably tell because I spent a lot of time and money on APAs recently. So with the mascot, right, I was like I had this idea, like originally Joe was supposed to be a young guy and, he wants to, it's kind of like DeFi, right? Like a lot of people from the young generation. So I had this idea like, oh, he's trying to break into crypto and then he grows into this farmer and then he grows up, et cetera, et cetera. So I was scouring the internet, I was scouring like Behance and Dribble and all those like designer websites. And all the top guys, the top artists, bear in mind, this is like back in April / May at the height of the NFT boom. So like at that time, all the artists I wanted to get were all taken. Like they wouldn't even respond to you. So I had like a huge long list of maybe like 50 artists. And eventually like artist number 20 responded. And I wasn't really big on his art at first. He was more of like kind of a game designer. And I gave him the idea. So I was like, Joe should be this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then, I think his English is not very good. He's from, I think, Russia or something. He just came out with this like this old Joe with with a big belly that looks like Santa Claus. And it was completely different to what I envisioned. But at the same time, when Murloc and I looked at it, we are like, you know what? This looks so like silly that it could actually work. And then we just decided to roll with it. So that's like the story of Joe, basically.
Nice. Now let's take a look at Banker Joe as a user. I love Joe. It's the first, Messi's been in DeFi quite a while. This is actually new for me, like in AVAX this year, getting my feet wet. And I'm in a bunch of Joe farms. I'm learning, I'm playing with all that. I've never tried Banker Joe. So as somebody, and I'm assuming then that extends to the audience, there's a lot of people probably looking in saying, what is the alpha with borrowing, lending? Obviously, I've heard things like folding and abracadabra and all that. Could you walk us through perhaps some of the base level strategies, like somebody like I'm seeing here on the site, deposit APY, next to that rewards APR for deposits. But as a borrower, it looks like there's rewards too. Am I getting paid to borrow?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think this like trips up a lot of people. It's like they're like, oh, you're getting paid to borrow. So with any new lending protocol, usually they'll incentivize both sides. So you have depositing and then borrowing, right? So depositing is like you deposit some AVAX or some USDC, USDT, and then that deposited asset is used by borrowers. So what happens in the birth of a new lending protocol is that usually you need to attract liquidity. So most protocols, they will incentivize both sides. So you will earn money to both deposit and borrow. In terms of strategies, so with lending protocols, for example, the thing that people are most scared about are liquidations. And liquidations happen in two scenarios. When your collateral value goes down or what you borrowed goes up. So in terms of strategies, the most popular and the most safest strategy is what they call folding. And what that means is that the asset that you supply is also the same asset that you borrow. So for example, you supply USDC and then you borrow USDC. So in this scenario, your collateral and your borrowed asset are the same. And like I mentioned just previously, liquidations happen when A, your collateral value goes down, or B, your borrowed value goes up. But because in this case, your collateral and borrowed assets are the same, then it's almost impossible, but not theoretically impossible, almost impossible to get liquidated.
So as somebody who, for example, well, we're talking to you from Joe, so maybe I won't say I went and bought some Joe, but I went and bought some coins on Joe the other day. Is it then something like, is it a missed opportunity that I would use USDT to go straight up buy something on Joe when perhaps I could have been depositing that USDT, borrowing some USDT against it, getting paid on the deposit and the borrow, and then going and buying, coin X or whatever, obviously coming with risk, but like, is there an opportunity there just to kind of funnel through the borrow lend on my way to buy something? Is that the idea? I feel like I'm missing out here.
Yeah, there's different kinds of strategies, and they all depend on how much risk or how degenerate you are. So the folding technique is the safest because your risk of liquidations is very, very low. So long you don't max borrow 100%, you're fine. But you can max borrow up to 95%, and so long you manage your borrow limit, it'll be okay. But yeah, obviously some people they want to ape really hard, so they'll deposit, say, like AVAX into Trader Joe, then borrow some USDC, and then maybe they'll even put that USDC in Banky to earn their incentives, and then borrow again from their side, and then do all kinds of like looping and kind of like, what do you call it? Just like going through all the different protocols and trying to reap all the rewards.
Yeah, I've tried this now as a trader. those of you guys who follow me and maybe watch some of the live streams, you probably know that it gets complicated. And then, of course, when there's volatility in the market, it's very hard for me anyways, as a newer DeFi user, to peg exactly where my risk sits when you kind of jump through all those different hoops. But I've seen some strategies like that, and I think it's time for me to just, like, the nice thing is you don't have to go for it, right? You can take $500, with Avalanche, the fees are so cheap. You could take $500 or $100, whatever's small for you, and just kind of loop it through all these things and play with it and see after a week what that $100 is worth. And I think it's time for me to do that. Do you have that built in, that folding stuff, or is it all manual? You go, click borrow, click lend, or is there like a fold how many times button? Or is that a feature you guys are thinking about?
No, I mean, we don't have that feature, and it's not something that we're thinking about. If you want to do the folding, so with folding, you literally let's say you put in $100 of USDC, and the collateral factor on USDC on Banker Joe is 75%. So that means that you can borrow $75, and then you put that $75 back into the deposit side. And then, you can borrow 75% of 75, which is, 62 something. And then you borrow 62 USDC again, and then put it back in the deposit side, etc. So that's like the whole folding or looping or recursive borrowing that people talk about. We don't have that functionality, like a one-click recursive folding, but there are other platforms you can use to do that. So you can do that with Snowball, or you can do that with Yield Yak. I'm sure there's some other ones I missed out as well.
For sure. Okay. Sounds good. Now, as we get along through first half hour of our show today, I want to get a chance for the audience to ask. I see a few requests starting to pop up. Of course, I could sit here and ask all my questions all day. I like to play, like the I don't know what we're doing here, so that everyone can learn from what I call, my not so dumb questions. But let's get everyone up here. I think Messi, if you were ready to go for mod, let's
Yeah.
let's kick it off.
Let me just, okay, so I'm going to go over really briefly how this is going to work. And guys, once again, let's please respect everyone's time here. When you do request to speak and you come up, please limit yourself to one question, and your one question can't be, I have 3 questions. Here are my 3 questions. Ask a question. If it's something reasonable, Fish will answer you. And after he answers, it'd be great if you could just say, all right, I appreciate that. Thanks for your time. As much as everybody probably wants to get into a discussion, we just don't have enough time to do that. As another reminder, this portion of the episode is being recorded. So you requesting to speak is consenting to being recorded. You will be posted on our YouTube, on our Spotify. Your identity won't be known, but your voice is going to be up there. So just please be mindful of that. So here's how this is going to work. And this AMA section is going to last for about 20 minutes. If we have questions, for that duration, you're going to request to speak, and I'm going to grant your request. Now, when you are a speaker, if you could just please mute yourself until Random Task calls on you. He'll call on you, ask your question, Fish is going to answer, say thank you. At that point in time, I'm going to remove you from the speaker role. Pretty simple stuff, really excited to hear, the kinds of questions you guys have for Fish. I've got some of my own questions, but I'm gonna keep those to myself for now. Maybe I can ask him on Twitter later or whatever. But I'm going to step into a mostly moderation role. And just a reminder, after this AMA with Cryptofish, we are going to dive straight into an AMA with Danielle Sesta, and we're going to be discussing Spell. So guys, I'm going to move to that moderation role, and I will start accepting your speaker requests now. One moment.
I was told there would be folding 3x on my questions, sir. We're going to stick to one question today, but let's see if we can start off with Rev. You got the APA. I love it. What's your question?
Hey, Cryptofish. So glad to hear from you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for what you're doing. I want to talk about APA. You've been collecting. I know that you've been sharing those. Really exciting stuff. What do you think is the future of NFTs on Avalanche and especially Trader Joe's? And what keeps you going?
Yeah, NFTs are interesting. I think for various reasons. I think people always talk about the L1 wars, right? And we know that liquidity is not necessarily sticky. Like liquidity moves from chain to chain. Farmers just go where the opportunity is. I think the real moat for L1s is culture. And that's really where Ethereum shines. They have this incredible culture, and a lot of it is revolving around NFTs. So, with NFTs, what I want to see in Avalanche are like NFTs that are very unique, that are not used somewhere else. I think everyone's sick of a punk on another L1, for example, or like 8-bit graphics. Like that's very overly used. What I like about APAs is that this whole Wolfie mascot it is very Avalanche. Like I don't know where it came from, but it's a very Avalanche centric mascot, and also the art is just different. So from that perspective, I think that NFTs will play a huge part in shaping our culture, and it's something that I've always felt very early on is like. With Avalanche, the great thing about being early here is that we have this great opportunity to shape the culture in this ecosystem. But long term, I also find NFTs very interesting because they are very different to fungible tokens or just like any other token, in the sense that we don't really know how to price them. They're not very liquid either. I think in general, we will see much more innovation down the NFT route.
Excellent question to start us off. OXO.eth. Come on in.
Yeah, what's going on? Oxo here. You kind of touched on this actually in the NFT question, but I just want to know if you generally think like forking protocols from ETH to kind of cheaper, faster chains like Avalanche is a net positive for the ecosystem, or do you think it kind of essentially kind of eventually disincentivizes future innovation and kind of how you take the step from going from kind of the basic protocol to evolving into something kind of new and unique?
Yeah, great question. By ecosystem, do you mean like the whole crypto ecosystem or just the Avalanche ecosystem?
The whole ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why certain protocols they spend years of research and development to create this innovative protocol, and then they launch it, and then a week later someone's forked it. I can see how that can really piss them off. But you can't deny that ever since like open source code, it really has just really like propped up this whole ecosystem in general, right? Like if Uniswap didn't make their code public, then there's so many projects that we wouldn't have seen. And I think forking is good in general for the whole ecosystem. Obviously, you'll get some lazy forks where the only thing they'll change is like the brand assets, logo, whatever. But I think most protocols, especially the case with us, like we're very wary that we are a fork. But our goal is not to stay a fork. Our goal is to innovate. And, it doesn't mean that we have to start from scratch. Innovation can mean taking what is existing and what is already working and improving on top of it. And that's what we plan to do.
Cool, thank you. And yeah, we can see that with the stuff you guys are launching and you're working on. It's just slightly different to kind of standard open source in that it pulls, these financial resources from the other ecosystems. But it's great to see you guys innovating and pushing some new stuff out. The .eth isn't kind of jading my question.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on to what you said, so far we've innovated more on like the product side, the user experience, the marketing side. But we are also we're working on something right now, which is going to be completely new, completely different, and that's protocol level, that's smart contract level.
Awesome, thank you, man.
No problem.
Excellent. Bully BTC, come on down. All right, we're going to move on to Dyslexic. You're up next.
Hey guys, hey Cryptofish. Thanks for running the show tonight. Just a quick one. I've heard some of the technical background of Trader Joe, etc. But how big of a part does the community play in the success of the project?
150%. I think it's funny because I was primarily a crypto user before, so I didn't know anything from the product side. And when I used to evaluate projects, I would look a lot about the tech, the team, etc. But now that I'm running a crypto project, I also get this other perspective, and I work with other projects as well. I see how they're running and everything. I would say the most important thing is a community, and a good barometer of success of a project is how they run the community, because that is really the hardest part. Like making tech, yeah, that's also hard, but people think like, oh, I can just make the tech and then I can kind of just dust my hands off and people will start using it. But community management takes a lot of time and effort, and it's something that's like really hands-on, especially in crypto, where you have this relationship with the founders, and people have access to speak to like the CEO of a project just through Telegram and Discord. So that's something that we value very, very highly. And the reason why I think it's important more so than the tech, for example, is like, Avalanche, obviously we have a lot of forks, fork protocols from Ethereum. And one of the, a few months ago, people were like, oh, what happens if like Sushi comes to Avalanche? Like, are you guys worried? And that was always a big question that was posed to us. And yeah, I mean, they can come over, but the issue is, can they build a community as well, And that's what we've seen actually over the few months. Like, obviously we've had some, Ethereum protocols, and we're happy for them to come over here. But because they don't have the resources to have a strong presence here, they usually don't actually do as well as their forked versions, which started on Avalanche. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, Nahid I.
Yeah, hi guys. I greet you from actually other side of the ocean, so from Porto, Portugal. And my question actually would be, like kind of continuation of the two questions. So there is 9FTs kind of growing also in Avalanche. So as also like with the motto that Trader Joe has like in the one shop for like, for Avalanche. So do you have an idea having also NFT marketplace like incorporated to Trader Joe in the future?
Yeah, I mean, there's something that has crossed our minds, but it's something that we're not thinking about. Because I think it's cool, but there's also other projects doing NFT marketplace. You have NF Trade already. You also have Cloud, which just launched like last week, right? So I don't think that we should be trying to take every market. What I would prefer is that we focus on what we have and we improve on it. So we have a DEX, we have a lending protocol. It would make more sense for us to kind of the next product we roll out to synergize those two protocols. But saying that, we are going to release our NFTs. They are officially named JPEGs, so watch out for them. It's not going to be a marketplace, so it's just going to be something fun. Something fun for people to play with. There will be like a kind of marketplace just for our own NFTs, but there won't be any plans for a fully fledged like OpenSea or anything anytime in the near future.
I'm looking forward to those NFTs from Trader Joe. Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
guys, and we do have about 10 minutes left on our AMA allotment for Cryptofish. So everybody who has requested to speak, you will at least get to, ask your question. You're up here. We're going to go through you. But we're not going to be accepting further speaker requests moving forward. And damn, bro, like Fish, make sure you drop that alpha on those JPEGs, man. I'm pretty pumped about that after missing the party animals.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we've got DeVilk with the Joe.
Yeah, hi guys. Very happy to be here. Hello, Cryptofish. I wanted to ask, what are the next features or big news upcoming on Trader Joe? You talked about next CEX or something like that.
Yeah, first of all, Devil, I love you, man. You're like our number one fan. Keep doing what you're doing. In terms of roadmap stuff, so obviously we're working on sexes, and I just mentioned we're going to launch JPEGs. We are working on something that's very different. It is new. I can't say much about it, not because I don't want to share with you guys, but it's just very much still in the ideation phase. I will say that it has something to do with DeFi 2.0 though. So I don't know how far away this new product will, whether we'll even launch it, whether it's even possible, but it's something that we're kind of, drawing up on the drawing board right now.
Okay, guys, thank you. I know Joe is hard coded to $10, so it's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we've got Yoda.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on stage. Well, first of all, congratulations, Cryptofish, for tremendous growth you have seen in the past few months. You guys are absolutely killing it. My question is about competition. So when I think about kind of the layer one competition in the public chains right now, there's a few major candidates such as Avalanche, Terra, as well as Solana. So I know Trader Joe is already kind of the top DEX on the Avalanche chain. How do you see the ecosystem continue to grow, and how does the ecosystem continue to compete with other chains? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good question. I think this is something that I've been thinking about a lot. I actually have never used anything else. I mean, I've used Ethereum, I use Avalanche, obviously, but I've never used Solana. I never used Luna or Phantom or Polygon. I only have heard stories. So the way I see it, right, is with Avalanche, I only know what's with Avalanche. So with Avalanche, what I see is that we have a lot of organic projects. We have projects that are fair launch, like obviously you have the own forks are very popular here. You also don't have this very strong presence of a single VC that's dominating the entire space that I've heard is present on other chains. And I think that's actually good. It means that we have a good organic community of builders and users here. I also think that in terms of user experience, people say that the bridge is the best they've used, and that's a big plus. There are some downsides with wallet options, but I heard that a new wallet's coming out soon, so I'm really pumped for that. In terms of how we can expand further than Solana or Terra, or whatever, I think it's all about just creating this culture, like getting people excited, getting people, I mean, it's not, I say memes, but like memes are actually very important. I think just having this kind of identity that's different, that's the main thing, really. Having a very strong identity, like what is the Avalanche identity, right? And that's something that I think is starting to play out now. We have our own memes, we have our own culture, we have our own artwork and all that kind of stuff. That's where I see us winning.
Yeah, and I noticed that too on Twitter yesterday. Even some of the heads out, Eamon and a few guys came out and just said, "Look, guys, stop with the toxicity. There's no need to be an Avalanche maxi. Like, this is a multi-chain world. Let's show respect." That's part of that culture that, frankly, speaks to me in many ways. So I would agree with you there. Curly Crypto Girl, you are up next.
Hey, hello. Thank you so much for having this event. We appreciate your time. And my main question was in regards to your response about DeFi 2.0. Is Trader Joe going to interact with the metaverse? And if so, can you give us any details on how? Thank you.
Yeah, interesting. I know it's the rave these days. What does it mean to interact with the metaverse, like having a virtual world? I don't
you
think
could have
so.
Trader Joe within a universe or a metaverse, maybe.
I wouldn't rule it out. But at the moment, no. I think I'm kind of scared to develop anything like kind of 3D rendering or creating a game or something. It could be cool though, but I know that in order for us to do so, we're gonna have to literally hire an entire gaming company or something to help us develop that. Yeah, so to answer your question, will Trader Joe interact with the metaverse? I think not in the near future, but possibly later on.
Thank you.
All right, we've got Douchey P. Come on down. Okay. All right. No douchey. Oh,
sorry.
Here he is. Right.
sorry. I was douching about. Cryptofish, just a quick one for you, man. With the way that the diverse use of Joe token to stake liquidity pools, farms, all of the things that you're doing, which are fantastic, by the way, would you ever consider a staking incentive model for IDOs or airdrops, like similar to the Zava project?
Yeah, people ask if we're going to do a launch pad. I think with DEXs is a very natural extension to do launch pads. You've seen that with PancakeSwap, for example. I think Radium also does that. We're very happy with like Avalanche. We love those guys. They're doing a great job. So I don't want to say yes, we're going to go into Launchpad. There's something that we respect their territory, and we don't feel like there's an absolute need for it yet. Saying that though, I don't know. I think maybe we could. I'm not sure. I don't want to rule it out.
That's
the way that I see it with the Launchpad is that right now, I think with Avalanche, you have to KYC. So there could be a market for projects that want to just like fair launch anonymously. They're not able to do so on the Avalanche. So maybe that's something that we can provide for them.
Cool. Appreciate time.
No problem.
Yeah, an exchange with a launchpad, a match made in heaven. Great question. One that I had myself. Now, Matt Harrington, you're up next.
GM and GB to all the frogs in the chat. I just wanted to respond. Joe Pegs is just perfect. Oh my God. I couldn't think of something so perfect on the branding side. I actually had a question about Xjoe's use as like a shilling point for projects to airdrop to. We saw that already with the Defrost Finance team using Xjoe stakers as wallets for dropping, and how Joe sees that conflicting with Xava and other explicit launch pads, but that was already addressed. I guess just more generally, Fish, you've alluded to in some previous threads about how you're getting pulled into chats all the time now for upcoming launches and projects in the AVAX ecosystem, which is super exciting. How might you suggest we as Joe fans and frogs at large play the Avalanche ecosystem coming up? Where do we keep an eye out, and how do we anticipate and properly position ourselves for this onslaught of new exciting projects we're about to see?
Yeah, we get this question a lot. Like people, they know about Trader Joe, but they want to dig deeper into the ecosystem and find those gems. We do our best to give all projects airtime. So, I guess the best thing to do is like follow us, and then we try our best to retweet all the projects that are coming into Avalanche and give them some exposure. Other than that, I would say, following the latest IDO, so, Avalanche, I think all of their latest IDOs have done fantastically well. For example, Krabata, like massive success. They also have another one called Tailcraft coming up. So yeah, I think that's the best thing to do. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I would say, just trying to, go on Telegram, Discord channels, following relevant accounts to find these gems.
Makes a ton of sense. You write great threads, Murloc and Daniela, and all the IDO channels. Makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
No problem.
And it looks like last but not least, we have Elijah or Ilya.
Yeah, and then it's the second one.
Ilya,
hey guys.
welcome.
Yeah, thank you for hosting the space. I've got a question specific to Trader Joe. Are you guys considering, and is it possible to bring some of the optimizations introduced by Uniswap v3 to Trader Joe? In particular, the one where users can set certain price range that they receive fees on, because it seems like on Avalanche it would work very well due to how low the fees are, for transactions, and allow users to like manage this quite often based on market conditions.
Yeah, I think, Uniswap v3 is a very interesting product. Capital efficiency is definitely a thing that all DEXs should be thinking about. I think for us to do it, we'll have to create a whole new protocol. It's not something that we can tack on to our existing protocol. And for this to work, you need other products to build on top of it, like Popsicle Finance. Danny, I see you just got promoted to speaker. Maybe you can chime in a little bit about that. But yeah, to answer your question, I think with capital efficiency, it's something that we're gonna do, but it'll be probably sometime like middle next year.
All right, all makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I was about to tweet that if I don't transform everyone in fucking diamond hands during this AMA, I'm gonna fucking quit. Ciao, sir.
Jesus.
How are you?
Ciao. Welcome, man. Good to hear your voice.
Ciao, Danny. Yeah.
Well, guys, just really quick, I did want to, wrap up or conclude our session with Cryptofish Trader Joe. Thanks for your time, man. I mean, you guys are absolutely legendary. I love your product. Really, really excited about potential token economic changes, that are coming up, surrounding XJoe, if they do or if they don't go through. It is a wonderful product, and I've really, really enjoyed my user experience on your exchange. So thank you for building something that I love and that I use. It's a part of my life, and I think it's a part of a lot of people's lives here.